Hi y'all, and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Veronica Kokis. I am a holistic voice teacher who believes that there are no wrong notes, just opportunities to learn, grow, play, and explore your voice. As we head into the start of a new year, there's of course always the conversation of goals, New Year's resolutions, and all of that talk can be really exciting and inspiring. But I also know how overwhelming it can be when you're looking at your list of goals and resolutions and you see that one that says that you want to improve your singing, and you're looking at that and you're like, well, what does that mean? How do I even get started with improving my singing? Because to be honest, that goal, it's a little bit vague, right? So how do we nail it down? How do we get more specific with our goals and break them down into meaningful steps that make sense for our lives, that make sense to us? That's what we're going to talk about in this video. In this video, I want to walk you through practical, realistic tools that you can use today so that you can actually follow through on these goals. No perfectionism, no unrealistic pressure. We're not doing that to ourselves here in 2026. Just simple steps that fit your life, your schedule, and your voice's unique needs. So let's dive in. So the first thing that you need to do is get clear on your why. Why do you want to improve your singing? Having a deeper meaning behind your goals, that is what keeps you going when life gets tricky, when it gets a little bit stressful, when things get a little crazy, when your schedule starts to change. Having that why in mind keeps you going. So ask yourself, why do I want to sing better? What does singing give me that nothing else in my life can? For me, I sing because it gives me joy. It helps me process my emotions, and getting better at singing, working with the teachers that I work with, learning from the programs and workshops and master classes that I attend, that I watch, those things help me better engage with that joy. They help me feel more secure with my instrument so that I can feel joy when I sing, and then I can better express my emotions. Maybe your why is that you want to improve your singing so you can audition for your community musical, because that's something you've always wanted to do since you were a child. I've also worked with students who wanted to take lessons, who wanted to sing, so that way they could sing with their family, so they could sing to their children, which I think is just the sweetest thing. So really, your why can be anything, but it just needs to be true to you and your soul at a deep level. And like I said in the beginning, the more specific your why is, and when you're actually laying out that why, that keeps you going on the days when you don't want to commit to these goals, when you're finding it hard to find that motivation. So when you've figured out your why, write it down, put it in your notes app, maybe make a cool little graphic on Canva and put it on your phone, download it on your phone and make it your phone's background. I've seen that before. Whatever you do, keeping your why in mind. Now that you've got your why, we need to get specific. So if your goal is that you want to audition for your community's musical, what I would recommend is laying out, okay, here are the skills that I've got already. Here's what I've got, but here's what I'll need to have in place in order to feel good about auditioning for that community musical. So, for example, let's say you sang a lot as a kid, but now you're an adult and you haven't sang in a long time. And maybe you sing in the shower, maybe you sing in the car, and that's kind of most of the singing that you do. So you know that you can match pitch, okay? That is a skill that you can write down and say, okay, I have this in place. Maybe you sing with a clear tone and you're like, yeah, I feel like my tone isn't breathy. It's not super forced. It's pretty natural. It feels pretty good. That is another skill that you can write down where you're like, okay, I've got these skills in place. What else do I need? So when it comes to looking at what do I need to feel good about auditioning for this musical, maybe, of course, you've got pitch, you've got tone in place, but you're not really sure which songs you should audition with. you're not quite sure how to bring the character to life. Like, for example, you maybe really love Journey to the Past from Anastasia. That is a song from a musical. And maybe you're looking at that song and you're like, that could be a really good audition song to take into this community musical audition. I've got my eye on it. So if you're looking at that song and you're like, I understand what the song is about. I like that song, but I don't know if it's for my voice. I don't know how to maybe act it out, how to bring the character to life. Those are skills that you're going to need to work at, that you're going to need maybe some assistance with, or you're going to need to research. Those are skills that you're going to need to work on in order to get to your final goal of auditioning for that musical. And so when you're comparing that list of, okay, these are the skills that I've got, but here are the things that I need to look at, that I need to explore before I can feel really good about auditioning for that musical. Looking at the list of things that you need, those are going to be your micro goals as you work towards the big goal of auditioning for that community musical. So in this case, we were talking about auditioning for this musical with the song Journey to the Past. Or maybe you're like, I don't even know what song I want to audition with. That is a goal. Okay, that is a task that you can put on your list where you're like, okay, one of my mini goals, one of my micro goals is going to be figuring out what song I want to sing. So that is a micro goal that you can lay out, that you can list out as you work towards this bigger goal. So, okay, you've got this one micro goal of either finding the song for you or figuring out, okay, what this song is about, maybe Journey to the Past or something like it. And then maybe your other goals, your other micro goals that you can list out, you can take from that list of things that you need. The other thing I mentioned was working on character. So bringing the character of the song to life. That is another micro goal. Okay, so what we're doing here is we're taking this big overarching goal of, I want to audition for my community's musical, and we're breaking it down into smaller, achievable steps. When we've got our map laid out like this, it makes this big goal seem a little bit more achievable and practical because we're getting that specific. You don't just go from point A to point B magically. Okay, that just doesn't happen. There are all these micro steps that we got to look at in between point A and point B. Breaking things down like this keeps you from feeling like you just need to get good at singing overnight. When we can look at these goals and break them down into manageable chunks and steps, it feels way less overwhelming. And this is really, really crucial when we're working towards any skill, any goal. Now, once you have these little micro goals, these little steps kind of figured out, you're going to want to organize them, okay? Don't just keep them in your head. I've certainly worked with students where they keep track of their goals in their head. I don't know how they do it. For me, I need to write things down. So take your little micro goals, the tasks that you need to complete to reach this overarching goal, write them down somewhere. Maybe it is a physical notebook that you're writing them down in. Maybe it's your notes app on your phone. Or maybe it's in the reminder app on your phone. Sometimes I'll set little reminders for myself throughout the day, just tasks I need to complete. Another app that I really like to use, especially for my work goals, is I really like to use the app Notion. And I use Notion for my laptop, my desktop, but you can also use it on your iPhone or any other smartphone or tablet. Of course, the most important part when it comes to organizing these micro goals, organizing these tasks, is that you don't have to get it all done at once. Break down these things, these little micro goals, these little tasks, organize them into like monthly, weekly, daily things. So like, for example, if you're working on that micro goal of diving into the character, let's say you've picked a song, which of course is a task in and of itself. You know what song you want to audition with for that community musical, but you know you've got to work on your character, you've got to work on your acting skills. Break that down into monthly and weekly goals. So for example, let's say 1 month you are doing some research into the musical that the song is from. You're doing some research into the musical, you're doing some research into the character, getting an understanding for what's happening in the musical? What's happening with this character? Okay, that is one goal that you assign to 1 month. And maybe a week in that month, you're taking that research that you've done and you're breaking it down into like a list. Okay, so you're writing out what are some characteristics that are of this character. Okay, like what are some things that this character does? Like how would I describe this character? So for example, going back to Journey to the Past from Anastasia, what kind of person is Anastasia? If I was her friend, how would I describe her? Writing those things out is another task that you could assign to a different week, a different day, that sort of thing. So again, organizing these things, not just in your mode of choice, whether it's a physical notebook or an app, not just doing that, but breaking down things into like a monthly, weekly, and daily view. Doing this really helps organize things into manageable chunks. So that way you're not just like staring at everything all at once and you're like, oh my God, I have so much to do. Okay, so far we've discussed having a why, breaking down your goal into micro goals, into tasks. And we've also talked about organizing these goals. Now, let's talk about schedule. Because let's be honest, we've done all of this work, we've laid out all these steps. If we are not maybe making time to do these things, to go after these micro goals, to go after these tasks, it's probably not going to get done, right? So block out practice time to work on your singing or work towards these micro goals. Block out that time just like anything else you would schedule in your life, whether you are adding that to your calendar app, or like I said earlier, I use the reminder app on my phone to set little reminders, little tasks in my calendar throughout the day, or maybe another app or a habit tracker. Taking your goals and scheduling them. Of course, I mentioned using the Reminders app. I also really love the Habit Tracker app that I use. I use that for tracking my daily meditation, as well as working towards goals like reducing my screen time. I keep track of that in my Habit Tracker. This helps me stay consistent without feeling too perfectionistic about it. And remember, working towards these goals, this doesn't have to be like an I need to do it every day sort of thing. It doesn't even have to be for very long. Even 10 minutes of focused work, of focused practice towards your goals, that makes a difference. Once everything is set up, so we covered our why. We broke down our goal into micro goals and tasks. We organized those things and then we've scheduled them. Now it's time to do the thing, to follow through on this schedule that you've made for yourself, continuing to revise and change these goals and micro goals as needed. And remembering too that when you accomplish something, when you commit to working towards these singing goals, when you're practicing day in and day out, don't forget to reward yourself. Not with like big, expensive material gifts. Like, please do not go out and buy yourself a Labubu every time you accomplish a practice session. But rewarding yourself with things that are meaningful to you. Maybe it's buying yourself a coffee from a local coffee shop. Maybe it's sitting down to watch an episode of your favorite Netflix show. Maybe it's going out for a little walk around your neighborhood. Or for me, and I hate to admit this, but I have a huge sweet tooth and I love cookies. So I will sometimes make a batch of cookies and eat the cookies. So that is my sweet treat, quite literally. Rewards help your brain associate things like practicing, things like working on your singing. It helps associate those things with something joyful, and we want that. And finally, please do not forget this one. Adapt your goals to the season of life that you're in. Maybe you set out to practice and work on your singing 3 times a week for 45 minutes each practice session. But work got crazy, school got crazy, life got crazy, life got in the way, okay? And maybe you're down to practicing one time a week for 30 minutes, or maybe it's for 5 minutes once a week. That is totally okay. Your voice is not going anywhere. Your self-worth is not dependent on how productive you are as a person. Listen to your mind. Listen to your body. Your voice will always meet you where you are currently at, not where you think you should be. So let's quickly recap. When it comes to accomplishing our singing goals this year, number one is that you need to figure out your why. Why are you singing? Why are you going after this goal? Number two is breaking down your big overarching goal into little micro goals, little tasks. The third thing is to organize those micro goals and tasks. The fourth thing is to schedule them, put them in your calendar. The fifth thing is to reward yourself, treat yourself when you're accomplishing these things. And then the last thing is to adapt your goals to the season of life that you're in. So as you move into this new year, I want you to think of your singing goals less as a thing that you have to get done, less of a race or like a competition or something like that. Because if we're being honest, we're only competing with ourselves here, right? But thinking of it more as a relationship. You're building a relationship with your voice that is going to ebb and flow and change and grow as you change and grow. Your voice is yours, and it is always going to be evolving. And your voice, you are worthy of investing time, energy, and care into exploring this relationship with your voice. I am cheering you on as you work towards your singing goals this year. And if you want someone to personally coach you, personally cheer you on, and assist you as you work towards these singing goals, I invite you to join me in my Curious Singer membership. You can find out more about that program at the link that's in the description below. And if you want more singing content like this, I invite you to subscribe to my channel, follow me on Instagram and TikTok. And in the meantime, happy singing, y'all.